Have you ever wondered why some people fast for 16 hours and still feel full of energy, while others struggle after just 12 hours and feel completely drained? The difference is not about how long you fast, it is about what you do while you are fasting. Today, we are going to talk about a simple habit, walking 30 minutes every day, and how this one thing can completely transform the effectiveness of your fasting routine. Most people think that to get better results from fasting, they just need to fast longer, skip breakfast, push lunch back a few more hours, maybe try a 24-hour fast once a week. But here is what the research actually shows. Extending your fasting window alone is not enough. What truly unlocks the power of fasting is adding the right kind of movement at the right time. And the best part, you do not need intense workouts. You do not need a gym membership. You just need a pair of shoes and 30 minutes of your time. Before we dive deeper, a quick note. This content is for educational purposes only. If you have any health conditions, please consult your doctor before making changes to your diet or exercise routine. Now let us start by understanding what actually happens inside your body when you fast. Because once you understand this foundation, everything else will make perfect sense. When you eat a meal, your body breaks down food into glucose. Glucose is your primary fuel source. It gets absorbed into your bloodstream and your body uses it for energy right away. Whatever is left over gets stored in your liver and muscles as something called glycogen. Think of glycogen as your backup fuel tank. Now here is where things get interesting. After about 8 to 12 hours, without eating, your glycogen stores start running low. Your body realizes it is running out of its preferred fuel. So what does it do? It starts looking for an alternative energy source. And that alternative is fat. Your body begins breaking down stored fat into molecules called fatty acids. The liver then converts some of these fatty acids into ketones. Ketones are an incredibly efficient fuel source, especially for your brain. This transition from burning glucose to burning fat and ketones is often called the metabolic switch. And this is exactly where fasting starts to work its magic. But here is what most people miss. This metabolic switch does not flip instantly. And for many people, it does not flip completely. Their bodies hover somewhere in between, not fully committed to fat burning. This is where walking comes in. When you walk during your fasting window, you accelerate this entire process. You help your body flip that switch faster, stronger, and more completely. Let me explain exactly how this works. Inside every cell of your body, there is an energy sensor called AMPK. That stands for AMP activated protein kinase. But you do not need to remember the full name. Just think of AMPK as your body's master metabolic switch. AMP constantly monitors the energy levels inside your cells. When energy is high, AMPK stays quiet. But when energy drops, like when you are fasting and your cells need more fuel, AMPK gets activated. And when AMPK activates, it sends a powerful signal throughout your body. That signal says, stop storing fat and start burning it for energy. Now here is the key insight. Two things activate AMPK more powerfully than almost anything else. The first is fasting. The second is exercise. When you combine both, when you walk while fasting, you create a double activation of AMPK. The effect is not just added together, it is multiplied. Scientists call this a synergistic effect, where the combination produces results greater than either intervention alone. Think about what this means practically. Fasting alone activates AMPK to some degree. Walking alone activates AMPK to some degree. But fasting plus walking. That combination pushes AMPK activation to levels that neither could achieve on its own. This is why pharmaceutical companies have spent billions of dollars trying to create drugs that activate AMPK. Medications like metformin, commonly used for diabetes, work partly through this mechanism. But researchers discovered something important. Nothing activates AMPK as powerfully, as safely, and as comprehensively as actual physical movement combined with fasting. You are doing for free what expensive medications try to replicate. So what happens after AMPK gets activated? Let us go deeper into your cells. Inside each of your muscle cells, there are thousands of tiny structures called mitochondria. These are your cellular power plants. Their job is to convert fuel into usable energy. When you walk during a fasted state, something remarkable happens. Your body realizes it needs more energy, but there is no incoming food to provide it. So instead of just working harder with what it has, your body starts building more mitochondria. This process is called mitochondrial biogenesis. Essentially, your body is constructing new power plants to meet the increased energy demand. Research shows that people who regularly exercise while fasting develop more mitochondria in their muscle cells. And these mitochondria work more efficiently. They become better at burning fat for fuel. This explains something that surprises many people who try fasted walking for the first time. After the initial adjustment period, usually 1 to 2 weeks, they start feeling more energized, not less. Their bodies have literally upgraded their energy production capacity. But that is not all. Specific enzymes responsible for breaking down fat also get supercharged. One study found that people who trained in a fasted state had fat-burning enzyme activity that was 47% higher compared to those who exercised after eating. These enzymes help release fatty acids from your stubborn fat stores, making them available for your mitochondria to burn. More active enzymes mean more efficient fat breakdown. At the same time, your body is optimizing how it uses its glycogen reserves. Light to moderate activity, like walking, depletes glycogen gradually without causing excessive stress. This gentle depletion prepares your body to rely more on fat as its primary fuel source. Now let us talk about hormones, because this is where things get even more interesting. When you fast, your insulin levels drop significantly. Insulin is the hormone that tells your body to store energy. When insulin is low, your body can more easily access and burn stored fat. Walking during this low insulin state enhances something called insulin sensitivity. This means that when you do eat again, your body handles that food more efficiently. Glucose gets absorbed by your muscles instead of being stored as fat. A study from the University of Bath found that 6 weeks of fasted exercise improved insulin sensitivity and blood glucose control more effectively than the same exercise done after eating. But there is more happening with your hormones. When you exercise while fasting, your body releases more adrenaline. Adrenaline directly stimulates fat breakdown. It tells your fat cells to release their stored energy so your muscles can use it. At the same time, growth hormone levels increase significantly. Growth hormone helps preserve muscle mass while promoting fat burning. Some studies have shown that growth hormone can increase up to 5 times during a fasted state. This combination of low insulin, elevated adrenaline, and increased growth hormone creates the perfect hormonal environment for burning fat while protecting muscle. Here is something worth emphasizing. This hormonal shift is not just about weight loss. It fundamentally changes how your body produces and uses energy throughout the day. When your insulin is chronically elevated, which happens when you eat frequently, your cells become less responsive to insulin over time. This is called insulin resistance, and it is at the root of many metabolic problems. But when you regularly walk during your fasting window, you are training your body to be more sensitive to insulin. Your cells become better at absorbing glucose when you do eat. This means more energy goes to your muscles where it can be used and less gets stored as fat. Over time, this improved insulin sensitivity translates to more stable energy levels, fewer cravings, and a metabolism that works with you rather than against you. Now, many people worry about cortisol. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone. And yes, fasting does cause a mild increase in cortisol. This is actually part of how your body mobilizes energy. But here is what most people do not realize. Gentle exercise like walking actually helps regulate cortisol levels. Instead of the sharp spikes and crashes you might experience just sitting around while hungry, walking creates a smoother energy curve throughout your fasting window. The result is steadier energy, better mood, and less of that anxious, jittery feeling some people get when fasting. Let us shift our focus to your brain now, because the benefits extend far beyond fat burning. Many people assume that fasting would make them tired and unable to focus. After all, your brain needs fuel to function right, but the opposite often happens. And there is solid science behind it. When your body burns fat, your liver produces ketones, and ketones are an exceptionally clean and efficient fuel source for your brain. Unlike glucose, which can cause energy spikes and crashes, ketones provide a steady, stable stream of energy. This is why many people report feeling mentally sharper during their fasting window, especially after they have adapted to the practice. But walking during your fast adds another powerful element. Exercise stimulates the production of something called BDNF. That stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It helps create new neural connections, strengthens existing ones, and protects brain cells from damage. Research on older adults found that regular walking can increase the volume of the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory, by up to 2%. In a field where brain shrinkage with age is considered normal, this is remarkable. Fasting increases BDNF. Walking increases BDNF. Combine them and your brain gets a double dose of this growth-promoting protein. There is also an effect on your neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers in your brain. Walking during a fasted state positively influences dopamine and serotonin levels. Dopamine is associated with motivation and reward. Serotonin is linked to mood stability and feelings of well-being. This is why many people describe feeling a sense of mental clarity and emotional calm after their morning fasted walk. It is not just in their heads. It is measurable brain chemistry. And unlike the temporary boost you might get from caffeine or sugar, this energy and focus tends to be sustained. There is no crash a few hours later. Your brain is running on clean, stable fuel. Many people who adopt this practice report that they no longer need that second or third cup of coffee to get through the day. Their natural energy production has improved so much that stimulants become less necessary. Now let us talk about timing, because when you exercise matters more than most people realize. Your body has biological clocks in almost every organ. Your liver has a clock. Your muscles have clocks. Your brain has a master clock that coordinates everything else. Light exposure in the morning sets your master clock. But movement synchronizes all the other clocks in your body. This synchronization affects when hormones are released, when your metabolism is most active, and when your body burns fat most efficiently. A study compared people who cycled before breakfast versus those who cycled after breakfast. The results were striking. The group that exercised before eating had fat utilization that was 3 times more effective. not twice as effective, 3 times. This does not mean walking in the afternoon or evening is useless. Any movement is beneficial. But if you have the choice, morning fasted walking appears to be the optimal window for metabolic benefits. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes complete sense. For millions of years, our ancestors woke at dawn and moved. Not after breakfast, but before finding food. The hunt happened on an empty stomach. Those who could think clearly and move efficiently while hungry survived and passed on their genes. Those who could not did not make it. Your body still carries this ancient programming. When you walk during your fasting window, you are activating the same survival circuitry that kept your ancestors alive. Here is something else that might surprise you. The benefits of fasted walking do not stop when you stop walking. A study from Japan found something remarkable. Exercise only increased 24-hour fat oxidation when it was performed before breakfast. The same exercise done in the afternoon or evening did not produce the same all-day fat-burning effect. This means that your 30-minute morning walk is not just burning calories during those 30 minutes. It is setting your body to a more efficient fat-burning mode for the entire day. Think of it like starting an engine. Once it is running smoothly, it stays that way. So how do you actually put this into practice? Let me give you some specific guidance. First, timing. The ideal time to walk is toward the end of your fasting window. If you follow a 16 to 8 eating schedule where you eat between noon and 8 p.m., then walking in the morning, say between 7 and 9 a.m., would be perfect. You are maximizing the time your body has been in a fasted state. Second, intensity. You want to walk briskly, not jog, not stroll. A pace where you can still hold a conversation, but it requires a little effort. Your breathing should be elevated but not gasping. For most people, this is around 5 to 6 kilometers per hour or about 3.5 miles per hour. Third, what to avoid. Do not push too hard. This is not about exhausting yourself. Gentle to moderate intensity is sufficient. Intense exercise while fasting can actually stress your body and become counterproductive. Save the hard workouts for after you have eaten. If you follow a 1 meal a day pattern, try walking 2 to 3 hours before your single meal. If you are doing extended fasts of 24 hours or longer, keep the intensity lighter than usual and pay close attention to how your body feels. Hydration is important. Drink water before and after your walk. If you are fasting for longer periods or sweating heavily, consider adding a small pinch of salt to your water for electrolytes. Sodium, potassium, and magnesium are all important for maintaining proper hydration and muscle function during fasted exercise. Some people find it helpful to start with shorter walks, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and gradually build up to 30 minutes as their body adapts. There is no rush. Consistency matters more than intensity. And please listen to your body. If you experience severe dizziness, irregular heartbeat, nausea, or confusion, stop immediately and eat something. Your body is telling you it needs a break. This is especially important for beginners who are still adapting, who should be extra cautious or avoid this practice entirely. Pregnant or breastfeeding women should not fast. People with a history of eating disorders should approach fasting carefully and ideally work with a healthcare provider. Those with type 1 diabetes, heart conditions, or who take medications for blood pressure or blood sugar should consult their doctor first. And anyone who is underweight or malnourished should focus on proper nutrition rather than fasting. Now let us talk about what happens when you make this a consistent habit. In the first week or two, you might feel a bit tired during your walks. This is normal. Your body is still learning to efficiently access fat for fuel. Many people want to quit during this phase, thinking it is not working. But push through and something shifts. By week 3 or 4, most people report a noticeable change. They feel more energized during their fasted walks, not less. Their mental clarity improves. The afternoon energy slump they used to experience starts to fade. This is because your body has adapted. You have built more mitochondria. Your fat-burning enzymes have become more active. Your hormones have adjusted to this new rhythm. Over the long term, consistent fasted walking leads to sustainable weight management, not through restriction and willpower, but through metabolic optimization. Your body simply becomes more efficient at using fat for fuel. Your energy levels stabilize. The mid-afternoon crashes that used to send you reaching for snacks or coffee become less frequent. You may find that you need less sleep to feel fully rested because your body is producing energy more efficiently. You develop what researchers call metabolic flexibility, the ability to seamlessly switch between burning carbohydrates and burning fat depending on what is available. Most people who eat frequently throughout the day never develop this flexibility. Their bodies stay locked in carbohydrate burning mode. But with regular fasted walking, you train your metabolism to be adaptable. So let us bring this all together. Walking 30 minutes daily during your fasting window does not just burn a few extra calories. It activates a cascade of biological responses from AMPK activation to mitochondrial growth, from hormonal optimization to brain enhancement. Your body transforms into a more efficient energy-producing machine. You burn fat more effectively. You think more clearly. You feel more energized. And the beautiful thing is, this is not a complicated practice. No gym required, no special equipment, just your shoes and half an hour of your time. Some trainers say you should never exercise on an empty stomach, that you will lose muscle and crash. But the research tells a different story. When done correctly, fasted walking is one of the most accessible and effective ways to enhance the benefits of intermittent fasting. So what do you think? Is fasted walking underrated or overhyped? I would love to hear your perspective in the comments. And I am curious, when do you usually do your walks? Morning, afternoon, or evening? And do you walk during your fasting window or after eating? Share your experience below. If this helped you understand how to get more from your fasting routine, consider subscribing. We have a lot more to explore about how your body responds to fasting and movement. Coming up next, what happens when you extend your fast to 24 hours and why so many people report feeling more energized than ever. You will not want to miss that one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Imagine walking into the gym without eating a single thing. No breakfast, no pre-workout snack, no protein shake. Just you, your body, and an empty stomach. Most people think this is a terrible idea. You need fuel to exercise, right? You need energy from food to power through your workout. But what if that's not entirely true? What if science says your body can actually perform better, burn more fat, and even protect your muscles when you exercise on an empty stomach? Today, we're diving deep into what really happens when you combine fasting with exercise. We'll explore why some people feel stronger and sharper when they train without eating. We'll look at which types of exercise work best during a fast and which ones you might want to avoid. And we'll cover how to train safely after you break your fast. Before we go further, a quick note. This is educational content, not medical advice. Everyone's body is different. If you have any health conditions or concerns, please talk to your doctor before trying fasted exercise. With that said, let's get into the science. To understand why fasted exercise can be so effective, we first need to understand where your body actually gets its energy. Your body stores energy in two main forms. The first is glycogen. Glycogen is simply glucose that's been stored in your liver and muscles. Think of it as your body's quick access energy. The average person stores about 400 to 500 grams of glycogen, which provides roughly 1600 to 2000 calories of energy. This supply typically lasts about 12 to 24 hours, depending on your activity level. The second form is body fat, and this is where things get interesting. Even a relatively lean person carries tens of thousands of calories stored as fat. That's enough energy to last for weeks, sometimes even months. Your body has an enormous reserve of fuel just sitting there waiting to be used. So here's the problem. Your body prefers to use glycogen first. Burning glycogen is faster and easier. It's the path of least resistance. So as long as glycogen is available, your body will keep reaching for it instead of tapping into your fat stores. Now here's something that might surprise you. The food you eat before a workout doesn't actually fuel that workout. Not directly anyway. When you eat something, it sits in your stomach for 2 to 5 hours while your body breaks it down. Then it moves to your small intestine where nutrients are absorbed over the next 4 to 12 hours. So the energy from your breakfast isn't available for your morning workout. That energy comes from what you ate yesterday. When you feel energized after eating before exercise, that feeling comes from hormones and expectations, not from the calories you just consumed. Your body releases hormones in anticipation of incoming fuel, and that makes you feel ready to go. But the actual energy, that's coming from your stored reserves. So what happens when you don't eat for 12 to 16 hours? Your glycogen starts running low. And when glycogen gets scarce, your body has no choice but to switch to burning fat. This process produces molecules called ketones, which serve as an alternative fuel source. And this is where fasted exercise becomes particularly powerful. There's a concept called metabolic flexibility. A healthy body can smoothly switch between burning glucose and burning fat depending on what's available. But if you eat constantly throughout the day, your body never needs to access its fat stores. It gets lazy at burning fat because there's always glucose around. Fasted exercise trains your body to become better at this switch. It teaches your system to efficiently use both fuel sources. Over time, this makes your metabolism more adaptable and more efficient. And this is just the beginning. Now let's look at what actually happens inside your body when you exercise in a fasted state. First, you burn significantly more fat. When you exercise without eating, your body doesn't have a fresh supply of glucose to work with. Insulin levels are low, and when insulin is low, fat is free to leave your fat cells and be used for energy. A comprehensive analysis published in the British Journal of Nutrition reviewed 27 studies involving 273 participants. The conclusion was clear. Aerobic exercise performed in a fasted state leads to significantly higher fat oxidation compared to exercise performed after eating. How much higher? Some studies suggest 20 to 30% more fat burning during fasted exercise. The explanation is straightforward. When you eat before exercise, insulin rises. And insulin essentially locks fat inside your fat cells, preventing it from being released and burned. When you fast, that lock is removed. Your body can freely access its fat stores and use them for fuel. Second, growth hormone increases dramatically. Growth hormone is produced by a small gland in your brain called the pituitary gland. It does two important things for your body. It helps build and repair muscle tissue, and it signals your fat cells to release stored fat for energy. Here's what's fascinating. Both fasting and exercise independently trigger growth hormone release. When you combine them, the effect is amplified significantly. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism followed 8 healthy men through different conditions. During exercise, growth hormone levels rapidly increased to more than 10 nanograms per milliliter. During 72 hours of fasting, growth hormone levels were about 3 times higher than normal throughout the day. Other studies have recorded increases of 5 to 14 times the baseline levels in both men and women. What does this mean for you? When you exercise while fasting, you're triggering growth hormone from two different sources simultaneously. This hormone helps protect your muscle mass while promoting fat breakdown. It's one of the key reasons why people who combine fasting with exercise often maintain or even build muscle while losing fat. Your body is remarkably smart. When food is scarce, it doesn't want to break down precious muscle tissue. Muscle is essential for survival, for movement, for finding food. So growth hormone rises to protect it. Third, insulin sensitivity improves significantly. Insulin sensitivity refers to how well your cells respond to insulin. When sensitivity is high, your body only needs a small amount of insulin to move glucose into your cells efficiently. When sensitivity is low, which is called insulin resistance, your body needs more and more insulin to do the same job. Over time, this can lead to a range of health problems. Here's why fasted exercise helps improve this. When you exercise, your muscles need glucose for fuel. During this process, your muscles become more receptive to taking in glucose, even without much insulin present. When you're fasting, insulin is already low to begin with. Combine these two factors, and your body learns to manage glucose more efficiently with less insulin. Research shows that exercising in a fasted state can improve insulin sensitivity more effectively than exercising after eating. And this improvement lasts for many hours after your workout ends. For long-term metabolic health, this is a significant benefit that compounds over time. Fourth, mental clarity increases noticeably. Many people report feeling more alert, more focused, and mentally sharper when they exercise on an empty stomach. This isn't just imagination or placebo effect. There's solid science behind it. Part of this comes from a protein called BDNF, which stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF supports the growth and development of nerve cells in the brain. It enhances learning, memory, and overall cognitive function. Studies show that both fasting and exercise increase BDNF production. When you combine them, levels may rise even higher. Another factor is ketones. When you fast, your liver produces ketones from fat. These ketones can cross the blood-brain barrier and provide energy directly to your brain. Your brain actually functions very efficiently on ketones. Some research suggests it may even prefer them over glucose in certain situations. There's also norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter that increases during fasting. It promotes alertness and focus. It's the same chemical that activates when you need to react quickly to something important. Now there's an evolutionary perspective that helps explain all of this. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors didn't have refrigerators or grocery stores. They often woke up hungry and had to hunt or search for food before they could eat. If their bodies became weak and foggy when hungry, they wouldn't be able to catch prey or find food. They simply wouldn't survive. Those whose bodies performed well during fasting, who became sharper and more alert when hungry, had a better chance of survival. Over many generations, this trait was passed down through natural selection. Your body today still carries this ancient programming. It knows how to function well without food. This isn't a flaw in the system. It's a feature. It's how humans were designed to operate. Quick question for you. Do you usually eat before or after your workouts? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to know which approach you prefer. Now here's where things get practical. Not all exercise is created equal when you're fasting. Let's start with aerobic exercise at low to moderate intensity. This includes activities like walking light, jogging, easy cycling, or gentle swimming. The kind of exercise where you can still hold a conversation without gasping for air. This type of exercise is ideal for fasted training. At lower intensities, your body primarily burns fat for fuel. It doesn't need much glycogen. You can sustain this kind of activity for a long time without running out of energy, even when you haven't eaten for many hours. If you're new to fasted exercise, this is absolutely where you should start. Go for a morning walk or an easy bike ride before breakfast. See how your body responds before trying anything more intense. Next, let's talk about anaerobic exercise at high intensity. This includes HIIT workouts, sprinting, jump rope at maximum effort, or any exercise that leaves you breathless with your heart pounding hard. High intensity exercise relies heavily on glycogen for fuel. When you push hard, your body needs quick energy and glycogen provides that. The challenge is that after 12 to 16 hours of fasting, your glycogen stores are already partially depleted. So you might feel weaker than usual during intense exercise if you haven't eaten. However, research offers some encouraging news. A study found that after 4 weeks of adapting to a very low carbohydrate diet, participants maintained their high intensity exercise performance. Their bodies had learned to function effectively with less glycogen available. The key is adaptation. If you're new to fasted exercise, don't jump straight into intense IT sessions. Start with lower intensities and gradually work your way up as your body adjusts over several weeks. Finally, there's resistance training or weight lifting. You can lift weights while fasting. Many people do it successfully. Each heavy set will use some glycogen, but the elevated growth hormone helps protect your muscles during the workout. There's one important consideration though. Weight training creates tiny tears in your muscle fibers. That's actually the point of resistance training. Your body then repairs these tears, making the muscle stronger than before. But this repair process requires protein as raw material. If you lift weights and then continue fasting for many more hours afterward, your body won't have the building blocks it needs for proper repair and recovery. So the recommendation is to eat a protein-rich meal within a few hours after resistance training, even if you trained in a fasted state. Here's a simple summary for exercise selection. If you're just starting out with fasted training, stick to low-intensity aerobic exercise like walking or easy cycling. Once you're comfortable with that, you can increase to moderate intensity. After several weeks of adaptation, you can experiment with HIIT or weight training if you choose. But always listen to your body. Start light progress gradually and don't push too hard too soon. Now, knowing what to do during fasting is one thing, but some people shouldn't be doing fasted exercise at all. Let's cover who should avoid this and what warning signs to watch for. Fasted exercise is not appropriate for everyone. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, this is not the time to experiment with fasted training. Your body has increased nutritional demands. If you have a history of eating disorders, fasted exercise could trigger unhealthy patterns. Please work with a healthcare professional instead. If you have type 1 diabetes or use insulin, fasted exercise can be risky without proper medical supervision. Blood sugar management becomes much more complicated. If you have chronic kidney disease, your body handles electrolytes and waste products differently. Fasting adds additional stress. If you're underweight, you likely don't have adequate energy reserves for fasted exercise. If you take medications that must be taken with food, you'll need to eat regardless of your exercise plans. And if you're completely new to both fasting and exercise, don't start both at the same time. That's too much change at once. Get comfortable with one before adding the other. Even if fasted exercise is appropriate for you, there are warning signs that mean you should stop immediately. Severe dizziness that doesn't improve when you rest, heart palpitations, or a racing heart that continues after you've stopped exercising, confusion or difficulty thinking clearly, which is the opposite of the mental clarity we discussed earlier. Extreme weakness that prevents you from completing exercises you normally find easy. Nausea or vomiting. Here's a simple rule. If any of these symptoms don't improve within 10 to 15 minutes of resting and drinking water, end your workout, eat something light, and consult a doctor if needed. One more important point about hydration and electrolytes. When you fast, your body loses water and minerals faster than usual. When insulin is low, your kidneys excrete more sodium and water. This is normal, but it means you need to be more intentional about staying hydrated. Symptoms of electrolyte imbalance include fatigue, muscle cramps, headaches, and dizziness. These can easily be mistaken for problems with fasted exercise itself, when really you just need water and minerals. The solution is simple. Drink plenty of water before, during, and after your workout. You can add a small pinch of salt to your water or use an electrolyte supplement. Nothing complicated is needed. All right, so you've made it through your fasted workout successfully. Now what? How you train after breaking your fast matters just as much as how you trained during it. Let's break this down into phases. The first phase covers the first 24 to 48 hours after you start eating again. During this time, your digestive system is restarting after its rest period. Insulin rises after your first meal as your body shifts from burning mode to storage and building mode. A significant amount of energy is being directed toward digestion and processing nutrients. For exercise during this phase, keep the intensity light. Walking yoga, stretching or mobility work are all excellent choices. This is not the time to chase personal records or push yourself hard. Give your body time to make the transition smoothly. The second phase covers 48 to 72 hours after breaking your fast. During this time, glycogen in your liver and muscles is being steadily replenished. This process takes time, usually 24 to 48 hours, to fully restore your glycogen stores, depending on what you eat. Here's something beneficial to know. After fasting, your insulin sensitivity is higher than normal. This means your body uses carbohydrates more efficiently. If you want to refuel with carbs, this is actually a good time to do it because your body will handle them well. For exercise during this phase, you can start increasing intensity. Light to moderate resistance training is appropriate, but continue listening to your body. If you don't feel ready for more intensity, wait a bit longer. The third phase begins around 72 hours after breaking your fast. By now, your glycogen stores are mostly or fully restored. Your digestive system is working normally again. Your hormones have stabilized. You can return to your regular training intensity during this phase. However, don't try to compensate for any missed training by working out extra hard. Ease back in over your first 1 or 2 sessions before returning to full effort. Finally, let's talk about protein timing after a fast. After fasting, your body is in an optimal state for building and repair. Insulin sensitivity is elevated, so protein is absorbed more efficiently. Growth hormone remains elevated for 24 to 48 hours after fasting ends. This creates an ideal environment for muscle protein synthesis, but your body needs the raw materials to work with. Prioritize high-quality protein in your first meals after fasting. This doesn't need to be complicated. Eggs, fish, meat, legumes, or yogurt all work well. Spread your protein intake throughout the day rather than loading it all into one meal. Your body can only process so much protein at once, so distributing it evenly gives you better results. Let's bring everything together now. Exercising while fasting isn't a crazy idea. It's not reckless or dangerous when done properly. In fact, your body was designed to function well without constant food intake. When done correctly, fasted exercise can increase fat burning significantly. It can boost growth hormone, which protects muscle and promotes fat breakdown. It can improve insulin sensitivity, benefiting your long-term metabolic health. And it can enhance mental clarity and focus through ketones and BDNF. The key is understanding your body and making smart choices. Choose the right type of exercise for your fasting state. Start with low intensity and progress gradually over time. Pay attention to warning signs. Stay properly hydrated. And when you break your fast, give your body the protein and nutrients it needs to recover and build. That meal you eat before exercising. It's not providing immediate fuel like you might have thought. The energy for your workout comes from what you ate yesterday, from your glycogen stores, and from your body fat reserves. When you exercise while fasting, you're simply giving your body a reason to tap into those reserves. You're training your metabolism to be more flexible and efficient. And as our ancestors demonstrated over thousands of years of human survival, your body knows exactly what to do. Here's my question for you. Some trainers say you should never exercise on an empty stomach. Others swear it's the only way to train effectively. After watching this video, where do you stand? Is fasted exercise overrated, underrated, or just right? Let me know in the comments below. If someone you know has been wondering whether they should eat before working out, share this video with them. The science might change their perspective. And if this helped you understand your body a little better, subscribe so you don't miss future videos where we explore more fascinating aspects of how your body works. Next time, we'll explore what happens during your first 24 hours of fasting. The results might surprise you. Until then, take care of yourself. You've probably heard this before. If you want to burn fat effectively, you should exercise on an empty stomach. Ideally, early in the morning, right after waking up from an overnight fast. Sounds logical, right? But here's something most people don't realize. Let's say you've been fasting for 16 hours. If you work out at 7 in the morning, your body is in a completely different state compared to working out at 5 in the afternoon, even though you've fasted the same amount of time. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that your body has its own internal rhythm, and this rhythm directly affects your muscle strength, your ability to burn fat, and your energy levels throughout the day. So the question is, when is truly the best time to exercise while fasting? In this video, I'm going to walk you through the specific time windows based on both how long you've been fasting and your body's natural biological clock. By the end, you'll know exactly which time frame works best for your goal, whether that's burning fat, building muscle, or improving your endurance. And more importantly, you'll avoid some common mistakes that many people make without even knowing it. One quick thing worth mentioning. Everything I'm sharing today is for educational purposes. If you have any underlying health conditions or you're new to fasting, it's always a good idea to check with a healthcare professional before making significant changes to your routine. Now let's start with the basics. When you stop eating, your body goes through different stages. In the first 6 hours or so, you're not really in a fasted state yet. Your body is still digesting your last meal. From around hour 6 to hour 12, things start to shift. Your body begins transitioning from using glucose to tapping into your fat stores for energy. This is when the metabolic switch starts happening. The sweet spot for most people is somewhere between hour 12 and hour 18. During this window, your body is efficiently burning fat. Your insulin levels are low and your energy tends to feel more stable. Beyond hour 18, you're moving into deeper fasting territory. There are benefits here, but you also need to be more careful, especially with high-intensity workouts. But here's the thing. This fasting timeline is only half the story. The other half has to do with something called your circadian rhythm. Think of your circadian rhythm as an internal clock that runs inside your body. It controls when you feel sleepy, when you feel alert, and when different systems in your body are at their peak performance. This clock runs on a roughly 24-hour cycle, and it affects almost everything, including your hormones, your body temperature, and yes, your muscle strength. Here's a simple way to understand it. You know how you naturally feel sleepy at night, even if you're not particularly tired? That's your circadian rhythm at work. And the same internal clock also influences when your muscles are strongest, when your coordination is sharpest, and when your body is most primed for physical performance. One of the most important things controlled by this rhythm is your body temperature. Throughout the day, your core temperature fluctuates by about half a degree Celsius. It's lowest in the early morning around 4 to 6 a.m., and it gradually rises, reaching its peak in the late afternoon or early evening. This might sound like a small difference, but it has a real impact on how your muscles perform. Your hormones also follow this daily rhythm. Cortisol, the hormone that helps you feel alert and ready to take on the day, peaks in the morning and gradually declines throughout the day. Testosterone in men follows a similar pattern, highest upon waking and tapering off as the day goes on. But here's where it gets complicated. Just because certain hormones are higher in the morning doesn't automatically mean morning is the best time to train. Because other factors like body temperature and muscle readiness are working in the opposite direction. It's a balance, and understanding this balance is the key to optimizing your workout timing. Let's talk about the morning window first, roughly between 6 and 10 a.m. There are some genuine advantages to exercising in the morning. Your cortisol levels are at their highest during this time. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but it also plays an important role in helping you feel alert and energized. It also supports fat burning, which is why some people feel that morning fasted cardio is effective for fat loss. For men, testosterone levels also tend to be higher in the morning compared to the evening. On the surface, this sounds great for building muscle, but here's what most people don't consider. Your body temperature is at its lowest point in the morning. Your muscles are literally cooler, which means they're stiffer and less flexible. This is why you might notice that your body feels a bit tight or sluggish when you first wake up. It takes longer to warm up, and your risk of injury is slightly higher if you jump straight into intense exercise without proper preparation. Research has shown that body temperature in the morning is about zero point 0.6 degrees Celsius lower than in the afternoon, and resting heart rate is about 7 beats per minute slower. This matters because your muscle strength hasn't reached its peak yet. If you're going to train in the morning, especially strength training, you need to spend more time warming up. Instead of a quick 5-minute warm-up, aim for 10 to 15 minutes to get your muscles ready. Now let's look at the afternoon window between about 2 and 6 p.m. This is where things get really interesting. For over 20 years, scientists have been studying how muscle strength changes throughout the day. They've measured hundreds of people testing their strength at different times, using everything from grip strength tests to leg extension exercises. And here's what they found. Every single study, not just one or two, but over 20 different studies spanning more than 2 decades, came to the same conclusion. Muscle strength peaks in the late afternoon, somewhere between 4 and 8 p.m. The difference compared to the morning about 5 to 6%. Now that might not sound like much, but if you're serious about strength training, that 5 to 6% can be the difference between completing that last rep or failing it. It can be the difference between lifting a heavier weight or hitting a plateau. Why does this happen? A big part of it comes down to body temperature. One study found that for every 1 degree Celsius increase in muscle temperature performance improves by 2 to 5%. In the afternoon, your body temperature is higher, your muscles are more supple, and your neuromuscular coordination is sharper. Think about what this means practically. In the morning, your muscles are cold, stiff, and operating below their potential. By the afternoon, they've warmed up naturally through your daily activities. Your nervous system is fully awake, and everything is functioning at a higher level. This is also the time when your reaction time is fastest, your flexibility is best, and interestingly, the perception of effort is lowest. That same workout that feels hard in the morning can feel noticeably easier in the afternoon simply because your body is operating at a higher level. Athletes and coaches have known this intuitively for years. Most sports records are broken in the late afternoon or early evening, not in the morning. And now we have the science to explain why. The evening window between about 6 and 9 p.m. shares many of these benefits. Your flexibility is still at its peak, and many people find that they can train harder with less perceived effort. However, there's one important consideration. If you exercise too close to bedtime, it can interfere with your sleep. The general recommendation is to finish your workout at least 2 to 3 hours before you plan to go to bed. This gives your body time to wind down. So now we come to the key insight that most people miss. When you're trying to figure out the best time to work out while fasting, you need to consider both factors together: how long you've been fasting and what time of day it is. Think about it this way. If you work out at 7 a.m. after 12 hours of fasting, your body is prioritizing fat burning because of the fasted state, but your muscles aren't at their strongest because of your circadian rhythm. On the other hand, if you work out at 5 p.m. after 12 hours of fasting, your body is still burning fat efficiently, and your muscles are now at their peak performance. Same fasting duration, very different outcomes depending on the time of day. This is why there's no single best time that works for everyone. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. Let me break this down by goal. If your primary goal is fat loss, the research suggests that the combination of fasted exercise does increase fat oxidation. A meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Nutrition looked at 27 different studies with nearly 300 participants. The conclusion was clear. Cardio performed in a fasted state burns more fat than cardio performed after eating. For fat loss, a good approach is to work out in the morning, somewhere between 6 and 9 a.m., after you've been fasting for 14 to 18 hours. Your cortisol levels are naturally elevated, which supports fat mobilization. The type of exercise that works best here is moderate intensity cardio, like brisk walking, cycling, or light jogging. Aim for about 30 to 45 minutes. Now, if your goal is building muscle or increasing strength, the equation changes. There's a fascinating study I want to tell you about. Researchers followed 42 men through a 24-week strength training program. Half of them trained in the morning between 6:30 and 10 a.m. The other half trained in the evening between 4:30 and 8 p.m. For the first 12 weeks, both groups gained muscle at roughly the same rate. No significant difference. But here's where it gets interesting. From week 13 onward, the evening training group started pulling ahead. By the end of the study, they had gained noticeably more muscle mass. What does this tell us? It suggests that while short-term results might be similar, regardless of when you train, the long-term adaptations favor evening training for muscle growth. Your body seems to respond better to strength training when it's performed during its natural peak performance window. This doesn't mean you can't build muscle training in the morning. Plenty of people do. But if you have the flexibility to choose your training time, and muscle building is your primary goal, the afternoon or evening might give you a slight edge over time. The optimal window appears to be somewhere between 2 and 6 p.m. after you've been fasting for 12 to 16 hours. One important note: if muscle building is your goal, make sure you eat within 2 to 3 hours after your workout. This gives your muscles the protein they need for recovery and growth. For endurance and overall performance, the afternoon window between 3 and 5 p.m. tends to work well with a fasting duration of 12 to 14 hours. Your body still has enough stored energy to perform, and your physical capabilities are at or near their peak. And if you're doing lighter exercise focused on mental clarity, things like yoga stretching or easy walking, the morning window between 7 and 9 a.m. works beautifully, especially if you've been fasting for 16 to 20 hours. Many people report feeling more focused and mentally sharp during this state, likely because the brain is efficiently using ketones for fuel. Let me give you a quick comparison between morning and evening fasted workouts. Morning workouts after an overnight fast of 12 to 16 hours have these advantages. They're convenient and easy to schedule before your day gets busy. Cortisol levels support fat burning, and testosterone is elevated. The drawbacks are that your body temperature is lower, so you need a longer warm-up and your muscle strength hasn't peaked yet. Morning fasted workouts are best for fat loss, moderate cardio, and light exercise like yoga. Evening fasted workouts, where you might skip lunch and train around 5 to 7 p.m., have different advantages. Your body temperature is at its peak, your muscle strength is highest, and your flexibility is better. Research also suggests you may gain more muscle over time. The drawbacks are that it's harder to maintain a fast throughout the day, and training too late can affect your sleep. Evening fasted workouts are best for strength training, high-intensity intervals, and performance goals. The key takeaway is that there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The best time depends on your specific goal and your personal schedule. Before we wrap up, let me share 5 common timing mistakes that people make. Mistake number 1 is working out immediately after eating in that 0 to 4 hour window, thinking you'll have more energy. The reality is that your body is still digesting food. Blood flow is prioritized for your stomach and intestines, not your muscles. And you're not actually in a fasted state, so you're missing out on the fat-burning benefits. Mistake number 2 is doing high-intensity interval training or heavy strength work after 20-plus hours of fasting, especially if you're not used to it. By this point, your glycogen stores are very low. The risk of low blood sugar increases, which can cause dizziness, shaking, and blurred vision. If you experience any of these symptoms, stop immediately. Mistake number 3 is always training at the same time without considering your goal. If you want to lose fat, morning fasted cardio makes sense. But if you want to build muscle, you might get better results by shifting to the afternoon. Many people do the same routine year after year without ever questioning the timing. Mistake number 4 is doing heavy strength training early in the morning without an adequate warm-up. Remember, your body temperature is lower, your muscles are stiffer, and your strength is about 5 to 6% below its daily peak. If you must train heavy in the morning, researchers have found that extending your warm-up by an additional 15 to 20 minutes can help compensate for this difference. Mistake number 5 is changing your training schedule abruptly without giving your body time to adapt. If you've always trained in the morning and suddenly switched to evening workouts, it takes about 1 to 2 weeks for your body to adjust. Interestingly, research shows that consistently training at a specific time can actually shift your performance peak to match that time. So be patient during the transition. Here's what I want you to take away from this. There is no perfect time that works for everyone. What matters is understanding what state your body is in at different times and aligning your training with your goals. Fasting and exercise are both tools. And like any tool, their effectiveness depends on how you use them. The combination of the right fasting window and the right time of day can amplify your results. But getting it wrong means you might be working harder than necessary without seeing the benefits you're hoping for. The good news is that now you have the knowledge to make informed decisions. You understand that your body isn't the same at 7 a.m. as it is at 5 p.m. You know that fasting creates certain metabolic conditions that can enhance fat burning, and you know how to match these factors to your specific goals. Most importantly, listen to your body. These guidelines are based on research and averages, but you are an individual. Pay attention to how you feel, track your progress, and adjust accordingly. Some people thrive with early morning workouts despite what the research says about afternoon strength peaks. Others feel sluggish in the morning no matter how long they warm up. Your personal experience matters. I'm curious about your experience. Drop a comment below and let me know. Are you a morning exerciser or do you prefer training in the evening? And what's your main goal right now? Fat loss, muscle building, or improving your overall fitness? I'd love to hear from you. Some people swear by morning fasted cardio for fat loss. Others point to the research showing that strength peaks in the afternoon, which means you can lift heavier and potentially burn more calories. What do you think? If this video gave you some clarity on when to train, hit that subscribe button. I put out new content regularly on fasting fitness and how to get the most out of both. Until then, train smart, and I'll catch you in the next video. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning not eating anything and going for a 30-minute walk or light jog. Sounds simple, right? But what's happening inside your body during that time could affect how long you live a healthy life. This is called fasted cardio exercising when your stomach is empty. Many people do this to burn fat. But science has just discovered something far more interesting. It may affect how your cells age. But wait, what exactly is cardio? And how is it different from regular exercise? Cardio, short for cardiovascular exercise, is any type of movement that raises your heart rate and keeps it elevated for a period of time. The key word here is heart rate. When you do cardio, your heart beats faster, you breathe harder, and your body pumps more blood and oxygen to your muscles. Examples of cardio include walking briskly, jogging, running, cycling, swimming, dancing, or even climbing stairs. Anything that gets your heart pumping and makes you slightly out of breath. Now, how is this different from other types of exercise? Think about lifting weights at the gym. When you lift a heavy dumbbell, you use a lot of strength for a short burst. Then you rest. Your heart rate goes up briefly, but then comes back down during the rest period. This is called resistance training or strength training. It's great for building muscle, but it works differently than cardio. Cardio is continuous. You keep moving for 10, 20, 30 minutes or more without long rest breaks. Your heart stays elevated the whole time. This continuous elevated heart rate is what triggers specific changes in your body, including the fat burning and cellular processes we're going to talk about. So when we say fasted cardio, we mean doing this type of continuous heart-pumping exercise, like a morning walk, jog, or bike ride, when you haven't eaten for several hours. Usually this means exercising first thing in the morning before breakfast. The combination of an empty stomach plus sustained elevated heart rate creates unique conditions inside your body, and that's where the longevity benefits come in. You've probably heard people talk about anti-aging cream supplements and expensive treatments. But what if one of the most powerful tools for healthy aging was completely free and you could do it every morning before breakfast? In this video, we'll explore exactly what happens when you exercise on an empty stomach, why it might help you live healthier for longer, and what the latest research tells us about this connection. We're going to look at real science, real studies, and break it all down so anyone can understand. Of course, this is educational content, not medical advice. If you have any health conditions, please talk to your doctor before trying anything new. To understand why fasted cardio might influence longevity, we first need to know about something called telomeres. These are like biological clocks inside every single cell of your body, and understanding them changes everything about how we think about aging. So what exactly are telomeres? Inside every cell in your body, there are structures called chromosomes. These are where your DNA lives, the blueprint that makes you who you are. Your eye color, your height, how your body works. It's all written in your DNA. And at both ends of each chromosome, there's a protective section called a telomere. You can think of telomeres like the plastic caps at the ends of shoelaces. Those little plastic caps protect the lace from fraying apart. Without them, the shoelace would unravel and become useless. Telomeres do the same job for your chromosomes. They protect your precious DNA from getting damaged. Here's where it gets interesting. Every time a cell divides to create a new cell, something happens to the telomeres. They get a little bit shorter, just a tiny bit each time. When you're born, you have around 11,000 building blocks in each telomere. By the time you're 65 or older, you might have only 1,500 left. Think about that for a moment. You start life with long, healthy telomeres, and with every passing year, with every cell division, they slowly wear down. When telomeres become too short, the cell can no longer divide properly. It either becomes old and stops functioning well, or it dies. This is cellular aging happening right inside your body. This is why scientists consider telomeres a biological clock. The length of your telomeres can tell us something about your biological age, which might be different from your actual age in years. Some 50-year-olds have telomeres like a 40-year-old. Others have telomeres like a 60-year-old. Longer telomeres are generally associated with better health, more energy, and lower risk of disease. Shorter telomeres are linked to diseases like heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and even cancer. The big question that scientists have been asking is, can we slow this process down? Can we keep our telomeres longer? Or are we just helplessly watching our cellular clocks tick away? In 2009, three scientists won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for their groundbreaking research on telomeres. Elizabeth Blackburn, Carol Greider, and Jack Szostak discovered an enzyme called telomerase that can actually lengthen telomeres. This was huge news. It meant that telomere shortening wasn't necessarily a one-way street. Even more exciting later research showed that our lifestyle choices, the things we do every day, might be able to influence telomere length. What we eat, how we sleep, how we manage stress, whether we exercise. All of these factors seem to matter. This brings us to the really fascinating part of our story. In 2024, researchers at Qatar University conducted an experiment that would challenge what we thought we knew about exercise and aging. They wanted to answer a simple question: does exercising while fasting have a different effect on telomeres than just exercising alone? They gathered 29 healthy women and divided them into two groups. Both groups followed the same exercise program for 4 weeks, moderate intensity workouts designed to get the heart pumping. But there was one crucial difference. One group exercised while fasting during daylight hours as part of Ramadan observance. The other group exercised normally, eating throughout the day. After 4 weeks, the researchers measured the telomere length in both groups. They took blood samples, analyzed the DNA, and compared the results to measurements taken before the study began. The results surprised many people in the scientific community. The group that only exercised with no fasting showed no significant change in telomere length. Their telomeres stayed pretty much the same as before. But the group that exercised while fasting, their telomeres actually got longer. Let that sink in for a moment. Not just maintaining telomere length, not just slowing down the shortening, but actually reversing it, making telomeres longer than they were before. This was the first study in the world to document this specific effect. Exercise is good. We've known that for a long time. Fasting has benefits too. Research has shown that. But when you combine the two, something special happens. Something that neither one can achieve alone. The researchers also found that the fasting plus exercise group had lower levels of inflammatory markers in their blood and better cholesterol profiles. Everything seemed to be pointing in the same direction. This combination was doing something unique at the cellular level. So why does this work? What's actually happening inside your body when you do cardio on an empty stomach that creates this difference? Let's break it down step by step. When you eat a meal, your body breaks down that food and uses it for energy. Glucose from carbohydrates becomes your primary fuel source. Your cells are happy. They have plenty of energy to work with. Simple enough to eat. But when you haven't eaten for many hours, 8, 10, 12 hours or more, and then you start exercising, your body faces a challenge. It needs energy for the workout, but there's no recent food to draw from. So it has to find energy from somewhere else. First, it starts burning stored fat. This is why many people like fasted cardio for weight loss. When there's no food-based glucose available, your body taps into fat reserves and converts them into energy. This is effective for reducing body fat. But something even more important is happening at the cellular level. When energy from food is low, and you're also placing demands on your body through exercise, your cells recognize this as a stressful situation. Not dangerous stress, but a signal that says resources are limited. We need to be smart about this. In response, your body activates something called AMPK. This stands for adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase, but you don't need to remember that. Just think of AMPK as your cell's energy sensor. When energy is low, AMPK gets activated and sends a powerful message to your cells. Stop building new things for now and focus on repairing and maintaining what you already have. It's like switching from expansion mode to maintenance mode. This is actually a survival mechanism that evolved over millions of years. Our ancestors didn't have refrigerators full of food. They often had to hunt or gather while hungry. Bodies that could efficiently switch into repair mode during these times survived better. When AMPK is activated, it triggers another important process called autophagy. The word autophagy comes from Greek and literally means self-eating. It sounds scary, but it's actually one of the most beneficial things that can happen in your cells. Autophagy is when your cells clean up the garbage inside them. Over time, cells accumulate damaged proteins, broken organelles, and other junk that doesn't work properly anymore. This cellular debris causes problems. It interferes with normal cell function and creates oxidative stress. During autophagy, your cells identify this garbage, break it down, and recycle the parts into fresh usable materials. It's like a deep cleaning service for your cells. Out with the old and damaged, in with the fresh and functional. Here's the key insight. Fasted cardio activates AMPK more powerfully than exercising after eating or fasting without exercising. When you combine the energy stress of fasting with the energy demands of exercise, you get a double hit of AMPK activation. The signal to clean up and repair becomes much stronger, and this is directly connected to telomere protection. When cells are clean with less garbage and less oxidative stress, telomeres suffer less damage. The cleanup process protects your biological clock. There's another piece to this puzzle that we need to talk about. There's a silent enemy that's quietly shortening your telomeres every single day, and most people don't even know it's happening. It's called chronic inflammation. Inflammation is your body's natural response when you get injured or catch an infection. If you cut your finger, inflammation helps heal it. If you get sick, inflammation helps fight off the invaders. This kind of acute inflammation is good and necessary. But there's another kind of inflammation that's not so helpful. When inflammation happens constantly at a low level, day after day, month after month, because of poor diet, lack of exercise, excess weight, or chronic stress, it slowly damages your cells, including your telomeres. Researchers have found strong connections between chronic inflammation and shorter telomeres. The more inflammation in your body, the faster your telomeres tend to shrink. It's like having a slow fire burning inside you, gradually wearing down your cellular clock. In the Qatar University study, the researchers didn't just measure telomere length. They also measured inflammatory markers in the blood. And they found something significant. The group that exercised while fasting showed significantly lower levels of TNF-alpha, one of the main substances that causes inflammation in the body. The group that only exercised without fasting didn't show this same reduction. This helps explain part of why the combination works so well. Fasted cardio doesn't just activate cellular cleanup, it also reduces the inflammatory fire that's damaging your telomeres. Scientists at Cambridge University discovered another piece of this puzzle. When you fast, your body produces a substance called arachidonic acid. This substance helps suppress something called the NLRP3 inflammasome, which is basically an inflammation switch in your cells. By producing more arachidonic acid, fasting helps keep that switch turned off. There's also a recent finding about ceramides. Ceramides are a type of fat molecule that, when they accumulate in your body, promote inflammation and cellular damage. The fasting plus exercise group in the study had lower levels of ceramides, and lower ceramides are associated with better telomere protection. Put it all together, fasted cardio reduces multiple types of inflammatory signals. Less inflammation means less damage to your telomeres. Your biological clock ticks a little slower. Let's talk about one more important mechanism, your cellular power plants. Inside every cell of your body, there are hundreds, sometimes thousands of tiny structures called mitochondria. These are the power plants of your cells. They take the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe and convert them into energy that your cells can use. When mitochondria are healthy, your cells have plenty of energy and work efficiently. You feel energetic, your organs function well, everything runs smoothly. But when mitochondria become weak and damaged, which commonly happens as we age, cells lack the energy they need. They also start producing more harmful byproducts, including reactive oxygen species that damage DNA and telomeres. Researchers at Harvard discovered something fascinating about fasting and mitochondria. When animals fast, their mitochondria stay in a more youthful state. Instead of becoming fragmented and scattered, which happens with aging, They connect together into healthy networks. One of the lead scientists put it this way: if we lock mitochondria into one fixed state, all the longevity benefits of fasting completely disappear. The flexibility of mitochondria, their ability to adapt and reorganize, seems to be crucial. Fasted cardio combines the best of both worlds. The fasting keeps your mitochondria flexible and connected. The exercise stimulates the creation of brand new mitochondria. So your cellular power plants are both maintained and upgraded at the same time. This connects back to telomere protection in an important way. Healthy, efficient mitochondria produce less oxidative stress. Less oxidative stress means less damage to your telomeres, another pathway to a slower biological clock. Now, before you get excited and run out the door tomorrow morning on an empty stomach, there are some important things you need to know. Fasted cardio is powerful, but it's not for everyone. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, this is not the time to experiment with fasting. Your body has different nutritional needs during these periods. If you have a history of eating disorders, fasting can potentially trigger old patterns, so please be very careful and consult with a healthcare provider. If you take diabetes medication, especially insulin, you need to talk to your doctor before trying fasted exercise. Your blood sugar could drop too low, which is dangerous. People with kidney disease, heart conditions, or other chronic health issues should also get medical clearance first. Even for healthy people, your body needs time to adapt. The first few sessions of fasted cardio might feel uncomfortable. You might feel lower energy, slightly lightheaded, or hungrier than usual. That's normal as your body learns to tap into fat stores more efficiently. But there are warning signs you shouldn't ignore. If you experience prolonged dizziness that doesn't go away after a few minutes, if your heart starts beating irregularly, if you feel so weak you cannot continue safely, those are signs you need to stop immediately. Start gently. Maybe just a 20-minute brisk walk the first few times. Make sure you're well hydrated even though you're not eating. Listen to your body carefully. Your body is intelligent. It will tell you when something isn't right. And remember, fasted cardio is just one piece of the puzzle. It works best when combined with good overall habits, nutritious food, when you do eat adequate sleep, stress management, and regular physical activity in general. So what have we learned today? Fasted cardio doesn't just burn fat. It activates powerful cellular cleanup processes through AMPK and autophagy. It reduces inflammation that damages your cells. It keeps your mitochondria healthy and functional. And all of these things work together to help protect telomeres, the biological clock inside every cell of your body. The 2024 research from Qatar University showed us something remarkable. Exercise alone didn't change telomere length, but exercise combined with fasting actually increased it. This synergy effect, this combination being more powerful than either one alone, is a significant finding. Scientists are still learning about all the mechanisms involved. This is an emerging field, and there's much more research to be done. But the early evidence is compelling enough to pay attention to. Of course, fasted cardio isn't magic, and it's not a replacement for overall healthy living. It's one tool in your health toolbox. Good sleep matters. Eating nutritious food matters. Managing stress matters. Building strong relationships matters. All of these things influence how your cells age. But knowing that a simple morning habit, something that costs nothing and takes just 30 minutes, could influence how your cells age at the deepest level, that's something worth thinking about. Your telomeres are ticking away right now, but the rate at which they shorten isn't completely fixed. You have more control than you might have thought. Have you ever tried fasted cardio? comment yes or no below. And if you've tried it, share your experience. What did you notice? How did it feel? I'd really love to hear from you. If this video was helpful, please give it a like. That helps more people find this information, and share it with someone you care about who might benefit from knowing this. Subscribe to this channel if you want to understand more about the science behind health and longevity. We break down complex research into practical knowledge you can actually use. Until then, take care of your cells. They're taking care of you. Two people, same age, same weight, same height. One heart beats 58 times a minute. The other beats 78. 20 beats apart. That gap sounds small, but do the math. Over 24 hours, the slower heart beats about 83,000 times. The faster one beats about 112,000. That is 29,000 extra beats every single day. Over a year, it adds up to more than 10 million unnecessary contractions. Same body, same blood. But one heart is doing far more work for the exact same result. And a heart that works harder every minute of every day wears out faster. That is not opinion. That is physics. The difference is not genetics. It is not medication. It is the size of the pumping chamber. One heart holds more blood per beat, so it pushes more out with each contraction. It does not need to beat as often. The other heart holds less, so it compensates with speed. Every extra beat is wasted effort. Now here is the real question. What made those two hearts different? How does one heart learn to hold more blood and pump more efficiently, while the other stays small and fast? That is what this video is about. And the answer is simpler than you would expect. It comes down to two signals arriving at the heart at the same time. One from your muscles, one from your cells. And the easiest way to trigger both at once is something most people already do but never think twice about. Walking up a hill before eating. This is not a workout tip. This is cardiac biology. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why this combination changes the physical structure of your heart. Before we start, this is educational content, not medical advice. Always consult your doctor before changing how you exercise or eat. Let us talk about the first signal, the one that comes from the hill. Your heart is a pump. It fills with blood, then squeezes to push that blood out to your body. The amount it pushes out with each squeeze is called stroke volume. A bigger chamber that fills with more blood means a higher stroke volume. A smaller chamber means a lower one. Simple. When you walk on flat ground, your heart pumps at a comfortable, steady pace. Blood comes in, blood goes out. Nothing changes. But the moment you step onto a slope, something shifts. Your legs are now pushing your entire body weight against gravity. They demand more oxygen. More blood rushes down to feed them. And at the same time, that blood has to fight its way back up to your heart against a steeper pull. The result is that more blood returns to the left ventricle, the main pumping chamber, than it would on flat ground. The chamber fills up more than usual. It stretches a little wider. Then it squeezes harder to push all that extra blood out. On flat ground, your heart cruises. On a slope, it works. Not dangerously, not painfully, but meaningfully. That difference is everything. This is not the same kind of stress that damages a heart. There are two kinds of stress a heart can experience, and understanding the difference matters. High blood pressure forces the heart to push blood through tight, stiff blood vessels. The heart is not receiving more blood. It is struggling to push the same blood through narrower pipes. Over time, the walls of the heart thicken to compensate. They become rigid. The chamber does not expand, it shrinks. That is the dangerous kind. Walking uphill creates the opposite situation. The heart receives more blood than usual and has to stretch slightly wider to handle the extra volume. No resistance, no rigidity. Just a gentle repeated stretch that tells the muscle fibers to grow longer and the chamber to expand. One kind of stress builds a stiff, thick wall. The other builds a large, flexible chamber. Same organ, completely different outcomes. And the key word is repeated. Your heart does not remodel after one walk. But when you show up day after day, the left ventricle starts to adapt. The muscle fibers inside the chamber wall grow longer. They literally add new segments to their length, like snapping extra links onto a chain. The chamber slowly expands, not because something is wrong, because the heart is building itself to handle the demand more efficiently. Over weeks and months, that chamber holds more blood. Each beat pushes more out. The heart no longer needs to beat as fast. Stroke volume goes up. Resting heart rate goes down. This is exactly why endurance athletes rest at 45 to 55 beats per minute, while most people sit around 70 to 80. Their hearts are not slower because they are weaker. Each beat is simply doing more. Less beats, more blood per beat, less wear over a lifetime. That is the mechanical explanation for the difference between 58 beats per minute and 78. One heart has been stretched and trained. The other has not. A landmark study confirms this. Dr. Benjamin Levine at UT Southwestern followed middle-aged adults who had been mostly sedentary for years. He put them on a moderate exercise program 4 to 5 days per week for 2 full years. The results were clear. The exercising group gained 18% more oxygen capacity and over 25% more elasticity in their left ventricle. Their hearts became measurably more flexible and more powerful, not slightly, dramatically. Dr. Levine described a sedentary heart as a dried rubber band, stiff and brittle. A trained heart was like a fresh one, stretchy and responsive. And the critical finding was this: the change was possible only if people started before 65. After that, the heart had already stiffened too much to reshape. That puts a timeline on it. If you are in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, your heart can still be remodeled. But that window does not stay open forever. The exercise was not extreme. No marathons, no crushing interval sessions, steady, moderate effort. Walking on an incline at a pace where you can still talk comfortably falls exactly into this range. The study did not test fasted exercise specifically, but the mechanical stimulus repeated volume loading at moderate intensity matches precisely what happens when you walk uphill consistently. So that is the first signal. The physical one. The incline fills the heart with more blood, stretches the chamber, and over time the chamber grows larger and more efficient. Every walk adds a small amount of stimulus. Over months, those small amounts add up to a measurable change in how your heart is built. Now let us talk about the second signal, the one that comes from inside your cells when you have not eaten. In a previous video, we explored how your heart switches fuel sources during fasting from glucose to fatty acids to ketones. That was about what your heart burns. This is about something completely different. This is about what your heart repairs. When you fast long enough, your cells detect that energy is running low. A sensor called AMPK activates. But AMPK does not just flip the fuel switch. It also sends a separate command to every cell in your body. Stop building new things. Start fixing what is broken. In most organs, that repair command means routine maintenance. But in the heart, it triggers something far more specific. Something that directly addresses the biggest problem aging hearts face. Your heart never stops. It beats every second of your life. To fuel that non-stop work, each heart cell is packed with thousands of tiny generators called mitochondria. These generators produce the energy that powers each contraction. They are so essential that they take up about 30% of the volume inside each heart cell. No other organ depends on its generators this heavily. Over time, some of those generators break down. A worn-out generator does not just produce less energy. It starts leaking harmful waste molecules called free radicals that damage the cell from the inside. If those broken generators are not removed, they accumulate. The heart produces less energy per beat. It gets sluggish. Recovery slows. Performance drops quietly year after year, so gradually that you do not notice until the damage has been building for a decade. This is one of the main reasons hearts weaken with age. Not because the muscle itself gives up, because the generators inside the muscle cells are failing and nobody is clearing them out. AMPK is the trigger that starts removing them. When AMPK activates during a fast, it launches a targeted cleanup process called mitophagy. Not general cleaning, not random recycling, targeted removal of damaged mitochondria specifically. The body knows exactly which generators are failing and goes after them one by one. Inside each heart cell, a protein called pink one acts as an inspector. It checks every generator. Healthy ones pass. Damaged ones get flagged. Then another protein Parkin wraps the flagged generator and sends it to be disassembled. The raw materials get recycled to build new clean, efficient generators that produce more energy with less waste. Old parts out, new parts in. The heart cell is now running on better hardware. This is your heart replacing its own worn-out parts. Not through surgery, not through medication, through a biological program that activates when you simply stop eating for long enough. And the longer you fast within a safe window, the more thorough this cleanup becomes. So now you have two separate signals. The physical signal from the incline stretches and enlarges the heart chamber, teaching it to hold and move more blood per beat. The chemical signal from fasting cleans and replaces broken generators inside each heart cell, restoring the energy supply to peak condition. Each signal alone would improve your heart, but they target completely different parts of the problem. One changes the architecture, the other changes the machinery. And that is what makes this combination unlike anything else. When they arrive at the same time, something remarkable happens. Walking uphill while fasting means your heart is being stretched by extra blood volume at the exact moment when its cells are running the deepest cleanup program they have. The incline demands more from the heart. The fast ensures the heart has the internal repair systems running to meet that demand cleanly. The chamber is expanding while the power supply inside each cell is being upgraded. It is like renovating a house while simultaneously upgrading the electrical wiring, both jobs happening at once and neither one interfering with the other. And because the effort is low, there is no flood of inflammation. High-intensity training triggers cleanup too, but it also creates heavy inflammation, which means the body spends days repairing damage from the workout itself before it can focus on deeper cell work. Low-intensity walking avoids that trade-off entirely. The repair signal is clean, no collateral damage. The heart benefits from both signals without paying an inflammation tax. This is also why you do not need to walk fast or push yourself to exhaustion. The magic is not in the intensity. It is in the combination. A gentle slope, an empty stomach, a pace where you could hold a conversation. That is enough. The two signals do the rest. This is why the combination is more effective than either one alone. Not slightly more, significantly more. Two separate biological programs converging on the same organ at the same time, both pushing it in the same direction toward greater efficiency. You are not stacking two habits for convenience. You are triggering a response that neither habit can produce on its own. There is a reason this works so well. And it is not because some biohacker discovered it last year. Your body was designed for exactly this combination. We have talked before about how our ancestors lived without regular meals. But here is the part we have not discussed. They also did not live on flat ground. There were no paved roads, no level sidewalks. The terrain they crossed every day was hills, valleys, rocky slopes, and uneven paths that changed elevation constantly. Their hearts were not just adapting to hunger, they were adapting to moving uphill while hungry. That is a very specific combination of physical stretch and cellular repair happening at the same time day after day for millions of years. Not by choice, by necessity. The next meal was always somewhere else, and the ground between here and there was never flat. The hearts that could handle both pressures at once, the ones that expanded their chambers under volume load and cleaned their generators during low fuel, those were the hearts that kept people alive long enough to have children. The hearts that could not do both at the same time simply could not keep up. They did not pass on their genes. Every mechanism we have talked about today, the chamber stretching from incline, walking the damaged generators, being replaced during fasting, both signals arriving together. All of it was built by natural selection, responding to one very specific lifestyle. Movement on uneven ground before eating. That is the environment your heart was shaped by. When you walk uphill before breakfast, you are not inventing a routine. You are returning to the original one. Modern life, with its flat floors, constant food, and hours of sitting, broke the pattern. But the program never disappeared. It just went dormant. One hill and one skipped meal is enough to wake it up. Now, before you head out the door tomorrow morning, a few things you need to know. Combining fasting with exercise adds a layer that fasting alone does not have. If you are pregnant, breastfeeding, have a diagnosed heart condition, use insulin for diabetes, are being treated for an eating disorder, or are under 18, talk to your doctor first. And pay attention to how you feel during the walk, not just before or after. Severe dizziness that does not ease after sitting for a couple of minutes, stop. Heart racing or beating irregularly, stop. Chest tightness, confusion, or feeling like you might faint, stop immediately and see a doctor. Stay hydrated. A glass of water with a small pinch of salt before you walk makes a real difference. Start with a gentle slope. Walk at a pace that feels comfortable. Build up gradually. The point is not to test your limits. The point is to give your heart the right signal safely over time. So here is the full picture. Walking uphill fills your heart with more blood, stretches the pumping chamber, and over time trains it to push more with each beat. Fasting activates your cell's repair system, clears out broken energy generators inside the heart, and replaces them with efficient new ones. When both happen together, your heart is simultaneously being reshaped from the outside and rebuilt from the inside. Two signals, one organ, both pushing in the same direction, architecture and machinery improving at the same time. The result is a heart that pumps more blood per beat, beats fewer times per minute, produces energy more cleanly, and stays flexible for longer, all from a walk up a hill before your first meal. No equipment, no gym membership, no complicated plan, just gravity and empty stomach, and the willingness to show up consistently. Not a workout plan, not a fitness trend, a biological upgrade that has been available to you your entire life. You just did not know your heart was waiting for the signal. Here is a question I want you to think about. If moderate, steady effort can reshape the heart just as effectively as high-intensity intervals, what does that mean for how we think about exercise? Drop your answer in the comments. And while you are there, tell me, do you walk fasted? What do you notice? One sentence is enough. I read every one. If this changed how you think about your morning routine, send it to someone who walks every day without realizing what is happening inside their chest. Subscribe if you want to understand what your body is actually doing when you are not paying attention. There is always more going on than you think. Walking uphill on an empty stomach does not just burn fat. It teaches your heart to pump stronger, cleaner, and slower. That is not a workout. That is your body remembering how it was always meant to work. I will see you in the next video. Let me ask you something that might sound a little strange. How do you walk? Not how far or how fast. I mean the way you actually walk. The way you breathe while your feet hit the ground. The time of day you decide to step outside. Whether you are looking at your phone or at the sky. These are things most of us have never once stopped to think about, because walking feels like something the body just does on its own. You do not plan a walk the way you plan a workout. You just go. But here is why that question matters more than you might expect. Researchers have found that two people can take the exact same 30-minute walk on the same road at the same speed and get completely different results. One of them burns mostly fat. The other burns mostly sugar and barely touches their fat stores at all. One of them actually lowers the stress hormone that keeps belly fat locked in place. The other, without realizing it, raises that same hormone higher. Same effort, same distance. But their bodies are hearing two very different messages. The difference is not talent. It is not genetics. It is a handful of small details that change the signals your body receives while you walk. And once you see what those details are, you start to realize that walking was never just exercise. It was always a conversation between you and your body. Most of us just did not know what we were saying. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 simple adjustments, all backed by research that can change what your body does with every step you take. No gym, no equipment, and you can start with just one of them tonight. Before we begin, this is educational content, not medical advice. Please talk to your doctor before making changes to your routine, especially if you have any existing health conditions. Now, before we get into those 5 adjustments, there is one thing worth understanding first. It explains why walking can actually be more effective than running when it comes to belly fat. Your body runs on 2 main fuel sources: sugar, which burns fast but runs out quickly, and fat, which burns slowly, but your body has a massive supply of it. When you run hard, your heart rate spikes. Your body treats that as an emergency and grabs the fastest fuel available, sugar. Once the sugar runs low, your body releases cortisol to break down muscle and make more sugar. You end up exhausted, starving, and your belly fat has barely been touched. But when you walk at a comfortable pace, your heart rate stays low. Your body has plenty of oxygen. And when oxygen is abundant, your body reaches for the slow, efficient fuel, fat. You might burn fewer total calories walking than running, but a much larger percentage of those calories comes directly from your fat stores, including that stubborn belly fat. That is the foundation. Now let us get into the 5 adjustments that make this even more powerful. The first one is about timing. Specifically, walking for 10 to 15 minutes right after your biggest meal of the day. This is probably the single most impactful change you can make, and the science behind it is fascinating. Here is the problem. When you eat, your blood sugar rises. Normally, your body releases a hormone called insulin, and insulin acts like a key that opens the door to your muscle cells so sugar can enter and be used for energy. But if you carry excess belly fat, there is a good chance your cells have become less responsive to insulin. The key still turns, but the door barely opens. So your body has to pump out more and more insulin just to force the sugar in. And here is the critical part. When insulin is high, your body stores fat. It locks fat in place, especially around your belly. Now, when you walk right after eating, your muscles do something remarkable. The physical act of your leg muscles contracting opens a completely separate entrance for sugar to enter your cells. Scientists call this transporter glut 4. Think of it this way. Insulin is the front door key that has gotten rusty and jammed, but muscle contraction opens a side door that does not need any key at all. Your muscles essentially work like a dry sponge. When you walk after eating, they absorb sugar directly from your bloodstream before that sugar has a chance to reach your liver and get converted into belly fat. You are bypassing the broken insulin system entirely. And this is not just theory. A study published in 2025 by researchers at Ritsumeikan University in Japan tested something remarkably simple. They had people walk for just 10 minutes immediately after consuming sugar. The result was striking. That short 10-minute walk reduced the peak blood sugar level significantly compared to just sitting. And here is the surprising part. The 10-minute walk done immediately after eating was actually more effective at lowering the blood sugar peak than a 30-minute walk started half an hour later. Timing mattered more than duration. So you do not need a long walk. You need a well-timed one. Just 10 to 15 minutes right after your biggest meal. That is it. And if you cannot get outside after eating, that is fine. Washing dishes, sweeping the floor, tidying up, walking around your apartment for 10 to 15 minutes, all of that activates the same mechanism. What matters is that your muscles are moving shortly after you eat. It does not have to be a formal walk outside. The second one is one of the simplest things you will ever hear, but the science behind it runs deep. Close your mouth. Breathe only through your nose while you walk. Here is why this matters. The biggest mistake people make when walking for fat loss is getting the speed wrong. Too fast, and your body switches to burning sugar instead of fat. Too slow, and you are not doing enough to make a difference. You need to be in that middle zone where fat burning is at its highest, and nasal breathing is your free built-in speedometer. If you are walking at a pace where you can breathe comfortably through your nose, you are in the fat-burning zone. The moment you feel the urge to open your mouth and gasp for air, you have crossed the line. Your body has switched from burning fat to burning sugar. But there is something even more interesting happening when you breathe through your nose. Most people think carbon dioxide is just a waste product. But that is not entirely true. Carbon dioxide actually helps your blood deliver oxygen to your cells. Your red blood cells carry oxygen through your bloodstream, but they will not release it to your muscles unless carbon dioxide is present in the right amount. This is called the Bohr effect. When you breathe through your mouth, you exhale too much carbon dioxide too quickly. And paradoxically, even though you are pulling in more air, your cells actually receive less oxygen. Less oxygen means less efficient fat burning. When you breathe through your nose, the airflow is slower. You retain a bit more carbon dioxide. Your cells get better oxygen delivery, which allows your fat-burning machinery to work at full capacity. On top of that, nasal breathing triggers the release of nitric oxide in your nasal passages, which relaxes your blood vessels and activates your calming nervous system. You are literally burning fat while telling your brain that everything is safe and calm. Now I know what some of you are thinking. What if I cannot breathe through my nose? Maybe you have allergies, a deviated septum, or chronic congestion. That is completely okay. Here is what you do. Slow down. Keep reducing your pace until you can breathe through your nose at least partially. And if you still need to breathe through your mouth, just walk at whatever pace feels comfortable and easy. This adjustment is a tool for finding the right speed. It is not a test you have to pass. You do not need to do it perfectly to get results. The third adjustment comes from an unexpected place: the military. In the 1970s, researchers at the United States Army Research Institute needed to figure out exactly how much energy soldiers burned while marching with heavy packs across different terrains. They developed a formula called the Pandolf equation, which has been refined and updated by scientists for over 50 years. It is now one of the most validated tools in exercise science for calculating the energy cost of carrying weight while walking. And here is the interesting discovery that came out of this research. You do not need a heavy military pack to see meaningful benefits. Even a light load makes a measurable difference. The idea is simple. Put on a regular backpack with 2 to 5 kilograms inside. That is about 5 to 10 pounds. A couple of water bottles or a few books will do. Then go for your normal walk. That small amount of added weight does several things. It recruits additional muscle groups, particularly your core muscles, your lower back, and your glutes, which normally do not work very hard during regular walking. It turns what was a lower body activity into something closer to a full body effort. And according to recent research, looking at people carrying about 5 to 10% of their body weight, it increases your energy expenditure by roughly 10 to 20% compared to walking without weight. Now, I want to be honest. Some sources claim that walking with weight burns 2 to 3 times more calories than regular walking. Those numbers come from military studies with extremely heavy loads over rough terrain. For everyday walking with a light backpack, the real increase is more modest, around 10 to 20%. But that extra burn on every single walk adds up significantly over weeks and months. The important thing is to start light. 2 or 3 kilograms is plenty for your first few weeks. If your back or knees hurt, remove the weight. This should make the walk slightly more challenging, not painful. The fourth adjustment has nothing to do with your muscles or metabolism. It is about your eyes and your brain, and it addresses one of the hidden drivers of belly fat that most people never think about: stress. Here is something many people do not realize. Belly fat has a special relationship with the stress hormone cortisol. The fat around your organs has significantly more cortisol receptors than fat elsewhere in your body. When cortisol goes up, belly fat is the first place your body directs new fat storage. And when cortisol stays elevated over time, that belly fat becomes incredibly stubborn. Your body believes it needs to hold on to those energy reserves near your vital organs. So reducing cortisol is not just a nice bonus. For belly fat specifically, it is essential. And this is where the fourth adjustment comes in. When you walk, put your phone away. Do not scroll. Do not stare at a screen. Instead, let your eyes relax and scan the environment around you. Look at the trees, the buildings, the sky, the road ahead. There is a fascinating neuroscience concept called optic flow. When you move forward through space and your eyes naturally take in the scenery passing by, it creates a specific pattern of visual movement. Research has shown that this pattern sends a calming signal directly to your amygdala, which is your brain's threat detection center. The amygdala triggers anxiety, fear, and the stress response. When optic flow reaches it, it essentially tells it to quiet down. Your anxiety drops, your cortisol drops, your body shifts out of stress mode. But when you stare at a phone screen while walking, the opposite happens. Your eyes lock into a narrow, focused tunnel vision. Biologically, that kind of focused vision signals to your brain that you are tracking a threat or a target. It keeps your stress system activated, it keeps cortisol elevated, and it keeps belly fat protected. So by simply looking up and around while you walk, you are not just burning the belly fat that is already there. You are turning off the hormonal signal that wants to add more. If you walk on a treadmill, the same principle applies. Look straight ahead at the far wall or out a window. Avoid watching a screen right in front of your face. If you want music or a podcast, use earbuds, but keep your eyes scanning wide. The fifth adjustment is about when you walk. Specifically, walking in the morning before your first meal. When you first wake up, your insulin levels are at the lowest point of the day. Your body has already used up some of its stored sugar overnight. This means that when you walk in this state, your body can access fat stores more quickly and easily than at any other time. But there is a second benefit that people often overlook. Morning sunlight. When natural light enters your eyes early in the day, it sets your body's internal clock. It tells your brain to peak cortisol in the morning where it belongs, and then let it drop gradually through the evening. This proper rhythm helps you sleep better at night. And better sleep means better insulin sensitivity the next day, which means easier fat burning tomorrow. It becomes a positive cycle that reinforces itself over time. Now, not everyone can walk outside in the morning. Some of you work night shifts. Some of you live where winters are dark and cold. Some live in places where it is too hot or unsafe to walk outside. So let me be clear. Your morning is whenever you wake up. If you finish a night shift and wake up at 2 in the afternoon, that is your morning. Walk then. If it is too cold, too hot, or unsafe outside, walk indoors on a treadmill, a walking pad, or even just pace around your home. You do not need perfect conditions. You just need a version that fits your real life. Now that you know all 5 adjustments, let me answer the question almost everyone asks. How much walking is actually enough? Walk at a pace where you feel warm. Your breathing increases slightly, but you could still hold a conversation. That is the right speed. For duration, even 10 to 15 minutes after meals already makes a measurable difference. If you can build up to 30 to 45 minutes a day, either in one session or split into 2 shorter walks, that is a strong and sustainable routine. Going longer is fine,